Well, I'd never gone looking for a hookup, but I'd gone looking, and it hadn't worked. Because of this, I wasn't exactly boy crazy, but I definitely was baby crazy. I wasn't old by any means, but I thought that by 26 I'd be in the same boat as the rest of my family. If not married with kids, at least well on my way. Heck, Emmy was having a baby before me. Yeah, that hurt. Not that I'd ever tell her or let it show. It was my problem, not hers. It wasn't her fault she found two guys who loved her and wanted to make a life with her. A family. I'd had it all planned out. College, grad school, then start a family. Sure, I was young, but I wanted a big brood, and that meant starting early. But somehow, at some point, my life plan had gotten derailed. I stifled a sigh as I turned to watch the haughty cowboy pick up his hat from the dirt ring, lift it and wave it in the air. The crowd cheered and clapped as he walked out through the open rail. Even the back of him looked damn good in the chaps and snug jeans. They were well worn and molded his butt just right. Damn it. Emmy nudged me with her hip, caught me ogling again. You should go back there. Introduce yourself. I looked at her as if she suggested I climb on the back of the bull and go for a ride. Introduce myself? To the bull rider. I couldn't do that. Emmy glanced at me. We looked similar with our light brown hair and hazel eyes, but she was several inches shorter. Why not? I shrugged. Because I couldn't. I wasn't like Emmy. She had no problem going up to strange men and flirting. Well, she hadn't before she'd fallen for Rick and Kevin 2 years ago. They were alpha males through and through, and they were the only men she flirted with now. The bowling ball beneath her shirt proved that. But that wasn't me. I'd never been great at flirting, and super attractive men tended to make me nervous. No, I always turned into a stuttering idiot. The reason behind my single status wasn't such a mystery after all. You're intimidated, aren't you? Emmy continued. God, she was way too amused by my discomfort. Some things never change. By that guy? I pointed in the direction he'd gone. Absolutely. You saw him. He's insanely hot. Of course I'm intimidated. I didn't bother denying it. We both knew I was the reserved one in our family. That was the way I put it. Emmy and my other sisters just called me a prude. What they didn't know, what I'd never told them, was that my wariness around hot men, well, practically all men, wasn't just because they intimidated me. It went deeper than that. I knew that if they got close, they'd want to get close. I'd had exactly one attempt at sex, and it had been awful, scary. Back in college, there'd been a guy, a good guy, or so I thought. On our third date, he'd assumed we would be doing more than just kissing. He'd assumed wrong. I hadn't been ready to take it to the next level, but he wouldn't listen. His hands had been everywhere despite my protests and my feeble attempts to push him off me. He'd been too strong, too determined. I shivered under the June sun. Thank God my roommate had come in when she had, or who knows how far it would have gone. As it was, he'd groped and fondled, but never managed to get my pants off. Still, the experience had left me with a bad taste in my mouth whenever dates started to get too close. I froze up, panicked. My stomach still turned when I thought of how the jerk's hands had felt on my skin, and no matter how attracted I was to a guy, that was all I could think of whenever a man leaned in for a kiss. Needless to say, intimacy was not exactly my strong suit. I didn't say any of that to Emmy, however. It wouldn't have made a difference. Her mouth was set in a stubborn line. Go on, say hello, she said. Her eyes were filled with a familiar mischievousness, the kind of look she used to give right before I walked into whatever booby trap she laid for me in our shared bedroom. Why? My eyes narrowed with suspicion. She wouldn't just push me to flirt with any old guy. Do you know him or something? Or something. She nodded, barely able to contain her laughter. You will too. He's your new boss. I blinked at her uncomprehendingly for a moment, but then her words clicked and my brain registered their meaning. My boss? That perfect specimen of a man was my new boss? Emmy had been working as the office manager for a local guest ranch, Hawks Landing, since she graduated college.